Hi guys, welcome back to Laura's Topics. First of all, let me just say how awesome I think you all are and so patient and wonderful and constantly emailing me and sending me comments for great topics for this channel. So stay tuned for that because as you all know, I've had a very busy summer. I worked on tons of different projects and I've traveled a lot, but now that fall is just about here, I am settled more and I have a lot more time on my hands to actually film more videos, and I have already filmed some for this channel, so keep a lookout for those coming very soon. But today is all about the Q&A on knives. I received some really great questions. A lot of them were the same as they usually are. There's lots of people ask the same questions, so I'm just going to give you a handful of answers that I think pretty much cover everything that you guys want to know. Just keep in mind that I am not some sort of professional knife person. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now the first question comes from Purple Mandy 817. The question is, which knives are a must-have in the kitchen? I think a serrated knife, like this one, an absolute must-have. And you're going to need a chef's knife, which looks like that, nice and sharp. This is a must-have, and some sort of paring knife. Now you can have one that's a little bit bigger, like this one, or a slightly smaller one. I actually prefer a smaller one. I feel like I have more control with a smaller one, but my set comes with, one that's a little bit bigger than the other, so I like both of them, and I tend to use them both actually. Next question comes from Tinnen111222. Hi Laura, I love your videos. My question is, what kind of knife do you use to cut bread? A serrated knife, always. Next question, Untick Piddick. Hi Laura, love your videos. Why should I cut bread and bakery products with a bread knife instead of a usual chef's knife? A chef's knife is very, very smooth and there's no teeth. So what happens is if you were to try and cut a loaf of bread with this, there's no teeth to grab onto like a serrated knife. So when you go ahead and cut it with a serrated knife, the teeth grab onto the bread and you can kind of rock it back and forth, and the bread isn't going to get mushed into a little thin pancake. Now if you were to use a chef's knife, that's exactly what happens. You're going back and forth. You're actually making your chef's knife, it actually makes it go dull that way. So it's not good for the knife, and then the bread comes out looking all squishy and all that. So you want to always use a serrated knife, a knife that has teeth on it that grabs onto the bread much, much better. Moonbabe443 said, hi Laura, how do you sharpen your knives and how do you keep them from getting blunted? Some special kind of technique or special cutting board? Unfortunately, there's no special cutting board that keeps them from getting blunted. If you use them all the time, I use my knives all the time, so they do lose their sharpness. And the way I sharpen them is actually I take them somewhere to get them sharpened. It's really inexpensive, and since I did invest in a relatively not super expensive, but a pretty nice set of knives, then I think, it's worth the extra few bucks that, once a month I take them and to get them sharpened, and it's done by a professional, and that's great. You can also buy the knife sharpeners, like they're all over the place. You can buy the electric ones, or some aren't electric, I'm not sure how they work, but hey, you can try those if you want to. Just read the instructions because all of them are different. But what my dad and granddad used to do years ago in Italy is actually use a broken piece of terracotta pot. I've personally never done it myself because I'm too scared of getting cut or anything like that, but I remember my granddad specifically using a broken piece of terracotta pot to sharpen his knives. So if someone in your family is used to doing that, then let them do it. Other than that, I really suggest taking them somewhere and get them professionally sharpened. You wouldn't believe the difference that it makes when you actually get them done by someone who knows what they're doing, because I certainly don't. So that's what works for me. Lorisk89 said, which knives can't you live without? Which knives should everyone have in their kitchen? A chef's knife and a serrated knife. I cannot live without these two. They serve tons of purposes, and I love them. Can't live without them. Crystal Vasquezo said, what is the proper way to hold a knife while slicing, chopping, etc.? The proper way to hold a knife always is to make sure that you have control of the knife. You don't want the knife to have control of you. So if you have, picture your chef's knife, okay? If you have your index finger on the top of the knife, what can happen is as you're chopping, your finger can slip. And if your finger slips, you can cut yourself. that's bad. That means that you don't have a good grip on the actual knife. So when you hold a knife, you want to be in charge of the knife. So you want to hold it right at the base like so, and nice and firm. That way when you are cutting back and forth, it's not going to wobble because you've got a nice grip onto it. Remember, you're the boss. You're the boss of that knife. NRENGER says, I got a nice gift set of Wurstoff and I want to know how to maintain them. When and how to send them to the professionals to have them sharpened. Once a month, I have a Wurstoff set as well. We're twinsies. I've had this for about over a year, and I've only actually taken it to get sharpened probably 4 or 5 times, and I do use my knives every single day. They're a great set, definitely worth the money. And I send them about once a month or so. I haven't done it that often, but I should. So I suggest if you use them every day, send them once a month to get them sharpened, and they'll be amazing all the time. They'll never give you any problems, trust me. DCara06 says, why does the word knife start with the letter K? I suggest asking your English teacher for that. And while you're at it, ask her why the L in salmon is actually is quiet. Why can I say salmon? I think it sounds better, but I have to say salmon. Jersey Girl 1216 says, hi Laura, I've always had difficulties on cutting and peeling certain fruits like peaches and apples. How do you do it? This is actually a really great question, and I'm going to go into more details about it in my next video, which you should look for it this week. I'm going to have a video. I'm going to call it Chopping 101, and I'm going to answer all the questions and demonstrate how to chop, dice, slice, peel, all that fun stuff, and which knives are better for which task. So keep a lookout for that video coming this week. I think you're really going to find it interesting, and share my little tidbits with you on how I feel, you should be cutting and dicing and slicing, all that fun stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Aishu Suresh said, my question for you is, what is your go-to knife? I'm gonna say my chef's knife. Chef's knife is my absolute go-to knife. I use it for just about everything, unless then I need my serrated knife. But other than that, I use my chef's knife for everything. The Tough Cookie, I love that name. The Tough Cookie wants to know how to safely clean a knife without slicing the sponge in half while trying to clean it. Always clean it from the back of the knife, never from the front of the knife, because you could absolutely cut the sponge in half, and also you could cut yourself. So I never want to do that. Always go from the back of the knife. That's how I always do it. YF Blackbird said, hi Laura, I wanted to know what is your biggest fiasco that has happened to you involving your knives. Thanks, love your videos. This is a good question, and it actually happened because my knife was not sharp. When you have a dull knife, it can be very dangerous. And I was working at my dad's restaurant, and I was cutting something with a chef's knife, and we had the big chef's knife, and I was cutting. The knife was not sharp, so I ended up cutting the tip right off of my index finger. And that was terrible. Really, really terrible. So that was my biggest knives fiasco. And it's always the opposite of what people think. People think if a knife is sharp, oh my goodness, be careful, you're gonna cut yourself. It's actually completely the opposite. If a knife is sharp, it will grab onto whatever you're cutting, and it's not gonna slide, and you're not gonna have difficulties with it. When it's not sharp and you're kind of fiddling around with it and trying to get something to work is when you can cut yourself. And that's exactly how I did it. So I always stress that your knives are absolutely as sharp as they possibly can be. Otherwise, you can absolutely cut yourself, and it is the worst. 34 Sunglasses wants to know what the best place to keep your knives are, and I think the best place is in your knife block. Like this one. Mine comes in a knife block, but you actually can buy one separate. If your knife set doesn't come with one, then you can buy them just by themselves. Unfortunately, my big serrated knife didn't come with my set, so I keep mine in my utensil drawer. Just make sure that it's by itself and it doesn't have a bunch of things around covering it, because when you're trying to reach for it, you might not see it and cut yourself. So that's what I definitely suggest. That's what I suggest, keeping them in your knife block. Also, one overall question that a lot of people wanted to know is how to clean knives. Never, ever, ever put them in the dishwasher. Always wash them by hand, because if you put them in the dishwasher, they will lose their sharpness. Like, they will not be sharp. They will go dull very, very quickly. So always wash them by hand, and never put them in a sink full of water, because when you're reaching in there, you can cut yourself very easily. So whenever you're done with that task, whenever you're done using your knife, go immediately to the sink, wash it, dry it, and put it away. that's it. A bunch of other questions all had to do with how to chop and how to dice and all that. And like I said, keep an eye out for this week for the video on chopping 101 that'll answer pretty much everything else that you guys want to know. I hope I have been helpful. I'm excited to see you next time, and I hope you guys are excited for the upcoming videos for Laura's topics. I have quite a few lined up that I think you're really going to enjoy. But for now, it's the weekend. I'm going to go enjoy my weekend, and I hope that you enjoy your weekend. Get in the kitchen, cook something good. Check out Laura in the kitchen if you need some inspiration, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.